Welcome to the Switchblade Sisters Social Club, a true crime podcast where two sisters exploit their worst fears for your entertainment. You're welcome. I'm Dee.
And I'm Randa, and together we are the Safieh sisters. For more information, check out our website at www.switchbladesistersocialclub.com or find us on Instagram and Facebook at Switchblade Sisters Social Club.
Thanks for listening. Hi, this is Switchblade Sisters Social Club, where two sisters exploit their worst fears for your entertainment. You're welcome. My name's Dee.
And I'm Randa.
Hi.
Hi.
Have you just got back in from the woods, lumberjack Randa?
These are my pajamas. You said that last time, but this is my new
fuck.
thing.
I need to think of new jokes.
Podcasting in pajamas, because as I said, I like to get cozy, feel like we're having a slumber party with our listeners.
Okay, but
I'm
can I
loving
just show
podcasting in pajamas, though. I'm loving it.
Well, I'm loving podcasting a bit tipsy because my friend and regular listener, Vicky,
Hi, Vicky.
she sent me my Christmas present, and it's a bit before Christmas, and I texted her, do I open this now or do I wait until Christmas Day? But before she even replied, I obviously opened it, right? So she's got me Devon rum.
Mm-hmm.
Honey spiced rum, because she knows I love rum. I've drunk quite a bit and it's tasty, but you know how I don't have any good alcohol vessels in my office for drinking out of.
That's what the bottle's for.
I've stooped lower. Is it lower or is it? I don't know. Well, I'll just tell you what happened. I went out for a coffee to support my local independent business. If you live in Twickenham, that's Pera. Pera is fucking amazing. Drank my coffee and then couldn't be bothered getting a glass for the rum and coke that I'd already laid out here in the table with all my snacks for podcasting. So I'm drinking my rum and coke out of this.
You know what that is? That's not low, that's sustainability in practice.
Thank you. Okay, yeah. So I'm being sustainable and that sort of stuff. But also in my package was a second present from Vicky. We went to Handfest in London a couple months ago, and one of the singers in one of the bands was wearing this t-shirt, and both me and her, it's a band t-shirt of a band that we've seen a couple of times together, and I know I've seen like 100 million times in my life, but the t-shirt was beautiful. And I have put it on for you now because even though you might not know the band, you will still appreciate the t-shirt because
Angela Lansbury? Who's the band?
It's Jessica Fletcher.
I love it.
Baby Conspiracy. So shout out to them. You've always been a really fucking fun night out, and love your t-shirt. So basically at Handfest, I was like, oh my God, I want their t-shirt. And they weren't selling. Or JB Conspiracy even playing. I don't know. But anyways, I had a lot of alcohol. And so what does Vicky do? The legend that is Vicky. She buys it and sends it to me.
Oh, cutie.
Right? She is so cute. You haven't met her yet. You should. I'm going to keep her. We're hopefully going to Cambridge next weekend to go see Faintest Idea, which is another band we love going to see. So
I have a funny story present. Amusing, mildly. You know, like when you've bought a present for, when you like have bought a present for someone and they bought a present for you, and then they give you your present first, and you're like, oh shit. Because their present like way trumps yours.
Oh no.
And you're like, fuck.
Because it's awkward the other way around too, isn't it? When they've given you like a bar of chocolate wrapped up real nice and you've bought them fucking sterling silver jewelry.
So basically, one of my clients who I absolutely love, and I'm going to give them a shout out because they're an amazing company called Absolute Mobility. They make accessible, they design and install accessible bathrooms, and I do their social media. Yeah, so they're an amazing company. And, you know, as a freelancer, as you know, we don't really expect Christmas gifts, you know, because we don't work for the company. So it's just really nice when you get one and unexpected. So I got a present from them and I was shocked by that. I opened it and it's a beautiful Neil's Yard advent calendar worth like a fortune, like actual full-size gift. Beautiful. Do you know what I...
Oh no.
And I was like, shit, I need to intercept royal mail now. So as I'm opening this beautiful present, their gift is on the way. It's transit, and it's a Lego gift set.
No, but you told me this story, and actually yours is really fucking thoughtful and
You
sweet. And
think?
if you don't expect a gift as a contractor, one thing for sure is that the clients don't really expect gifts.
Yeah, okay, so the gift it wasn't just a Lego gift set, it was a Lego model kit of the car that he has, which is a 1970s Dodge Charger, which has a very sentimental story attached to it, but it's still a fucking Lego kit compared to this beautiful Neil Yard advent calendar. So anyway, I was like, when you're like, fuck, how do I intercept the mail?
Has he received the
Not yet. He won't actually for a while because he's on holiday, but
can we just give a shout out to my Dodge Avenger, balls deep.
Oh, that was
I
a
love
great
that
car.
It was a great car.
We have a good history of ridiculous cars. That was always our
Our
criteria.
thing.
Ridiculous. How fucking ridiculous a car can we have? And every fucking one has been ridiculous.
Either the color, the model.
Yeah. I remember my first car, the Citroen 2CV, and I remember you pushing me down Sutton Court Road
To get to your college, to get to uni, right?
to jumpstart it. I mean, this happened probably a few times because it had one of those what do you call that thing?
Crankshaft?
I don't know. It sounds like the right word, but I'm sure that it's not. But it was a crankshaft. Sounds exactly what it should be called, but it was a wind up thing, like a music box to wind up the engine to start the car. And then it had a tractor gear stick, but basically the car would always die. I bought it for $250 when I was 17. And this shit would die all the time, that fucking car. Anyway.
It was so cool though.
It was
how you
cool.
put leopard print trim.
Yes, I did. And I tried to make it look like Herbie Goat's Bananas with a number 8 on the door. It was good. So ridiculous cars. Oh, I have a visitor. Hello. Oh, nope, I don't have a visitor anymore. Oh, yes, I do.
Rio, baby girl Rio.
Hold on. Oh, okay.
Tell me the fucking story.
Okay, so this story deserves multiple episodes. It's so big. I mean, like to be honest, all the cases we cover, if you dissect them, deserve multiple episodes. This one definitely does. So this is the condensed and abridged version. But the reason I wanted to cover it is because I think it's like the benchmark of true crime stories. It is actually, probably
John Benet Ramsey.
No, not that one, actually, not that one. But it was this documentary plus Tall Hot Blonde that sparked my true crime interest. You know how everyone got into Making a Murderer?
Yeah.
Okay, so these came before that. And I remember watching Making a Murderer thinking, okay, this wasn't as fascinating actually as this story or Tall Hot Blonde. If anyone
Tall Hot Blonde is a good one.
Oh, shocking. This one I found shocking too. And partially because the whole psychology aspect that I find interesting, partially because this is somebody who committed several murders, but it wasn't in the same, how like the guy you covered last week?
John Cannon.
Yeah, there are people who murder for the sake of murder or for the sake of harming or for the enjoyment of it. This is somebody who killed to eliminate problems, like a strategic
psychopath.
He is a psychopath, yeah, and a narcissist, and killed basically to remove problems from his life. And also, how like we covered the Menendez brothers, and we talked about the Murdoch family, the rich, and Dominique Strauss-Kahn, how the rich people seem to get off somehow,
Yeah.
So it had like all the elements that interested me. And basically, I'm going to talk today about Robert Durst. And if anyone has seen the 6-part HBO series, The Jinx, The Life and Deaths of Robert Durst, God, I'm not sure anything will satisfy you true crime-wise after watching that. It's 6 parts. It's addictive. It's so multifaceted. It's so interesting. And I was researching this episode today, and I binged a few like extra podcasts on it, and everything I listened to, everything I read and listened to, there was like more and more little elements here and there to the story that I didn't know.
Big. It's so fucking big.
And I really, this is not going to do it justice because it deserves multiple episodes. It deserves.
So don't bother. Switch off, guys. Find another podcast.
But I mean, hopefully this shortened version will pique people's interest. to go
Do you
and
know
watch.
I haven't even seen the Jinx yet?
Sienna, nothing will ever do after watching that.
Is it still on Netflix?
I don't think it ever was. I
Oh.
watched it, I think 2016, downloaded illegally because it's HBO, so I don't know how people can access it. But you know,
I'll try
back
to
in the day,
find it.
we had LimeWire. I'm sure
Let
it's
me
probably on YouTube.
just, do you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna ask our favorite Sam.
I
What
think
streaming platform is the Jinx on about Robert Durst asking live on pod? Cool. Let's see what he says.
so.
He'll
I'm
Google it
hoping
for us.
good. Hopefully, this abridged version will pique people's interest to go and find out more because I cannot cover all the details, but I will do my best. So, Robert Allen Durst was born in 1943 and he died in January 10th, 2022, so very recently. He was an American real estate heir and a convicted, well, 3-time murderer. So, why did it interest me? As I said, I never used to watch true crime or wasn't even aware of it as, you know, a whole genre that people were into until I saw this. And the series was amazing. Came out in 2015. I watched it 2016. And the documentary series was by a guy called Andrew Jarecki, who I'm going to mention again. So basically, Andrew Jarecki had made a film based loosely on Robert Durst's life that had Ryan Gosling and Kirsten Dunst in it. And it came out in 2010. And that film is called All Good Things. And I think that's on Netflix. So that film was like a dramatized version. It didn't include all the elements, but it's good, worth watching. Basically, Robert Durst, who I will now call Durst because we call the bad people by their surnames, he loved that film that was based on him being the narcissist that he is. He contacted Andrew Jarecki, and that's how the documentary came to be.
Wait, so was he already in prison at this point?
Let me get to that later.
Oh,
it's not
okay.
that simple, Dee. Not that simple.
Oh, of course not.
So he contacted Andrew Jarecki and he wanted, and that's how the documentary came to be. He was actually in the documentary and there was 20 hours of interviews with him. So fascinating when you actually.
Oh, I know. It's like The Staircase. That was another great documentary.
Yeah.
Because he had initially hired the people to make the documentary, didn't they? And also, I'll tell you another one like that that's fucking fascinating. Oh, I'm not going to remember the name, but the one about Kim Wall, who was killed by, I want to say, Madsen on the submarine.
Oh,
that was another one where they were making a documentary about this guy building a submarine and how eccentric and blah, blah, blah. He's like the Copenhagen version of like, you know, Elon Musk going to space and whatever. And then while they're making the documentary, Kim Wall goes missing. He gets arrested. It comes out he's killed her.
Oh my God, I haven't even heard of that. I need to watch it now.
Oh, it's so good. But yeah, when the person is actually in the documentary, it's
Yeah.
next level creepy, isn't it?
So I watched The Staircase after this, and The Staircase, I felt, sounds terrible to say this, boring in comparison, you know? I feel bad saying that because there are victims, but the, you know, this was.
It could have been edited down a little bit, let's just say that.
Yeah. So he never cooperated with journalists or filmmakers, but Durst sat with Andrew Jarecki for 20 hours of recorded interviews, and he professed admiration for the Jinx, the documentary series, although he was arrested the day before the finale aired, and I will get into which arrest that was for. So Durst was the eldest son of a New York City real estate magnate, Seymour Durst, and he gained attention as a suspect in an unsolved 1982 disappearance of his first wife, Kathleen McCormack, the 2000 murder of his longtime friend, Susan Berman, and the 2001 killing of his neighbor, Morris Black. Those are the ones we're aware of. It's possible that there are others. He was acquitted of murdering Morris. Morris in 2000. Sorry, he was acquitted of murdering Morris in 2003. And Durst did not face significant further legal action until his participation in the documentary, which led him to being charged for Berman's murder. So it's complicated, it's multifaceted, and I will try to untangle it.
So his narcissistic behavior being involved in this documentary might have led to his downfall.
Yes, 100%.
Yay!
Yes, I've got a recording.
Oh,
So Durst was convicted of the murder in 2021 and sentenced to life in prison without parole. So he was charged with involvement in Catherine's disappearance, his first wife, shortly after his sentencing, but died in 2022 before the trial could actually begin for that case. So
So
he
he's
was,
only been convicted for one of these murders.
yes, which is Susan Berman, who he murdered in the year 2000.
Okay.
He never faced justice for his first wife, Kathleen, but we'll call her Kathleen.
Alleged justice, I guess,
Yeah.
whatever.
So he was charged with involvement. Sorry, I said that. Okay, so his family owned the successful real estate business called the Durst Organization, which was founded in 1927, and they built like half of Manhattan. They were very wealthy. His three younger siblings were Douglas, Tommy, and Wendy Durst. And when Durst was 7, his mother committed suicide by jumping from the roof of the family home. He later claimed that moments before her death, his father walked into the window from which he could see her standing on the roof, so he saw his mother jump. I found that fascinating when I watched it because I thought they presented it, or he presented it, as though his father made him watch his mother die. The way I interpreted it, and this is just my interpretation, is what kind of sick fuck would do that to their kid? Was that maybe a way of getting the mother not to reconsider what she was doing by saying, look, your son's here, you know?
Yeah.
That was my interpretation because I just cannot fathom why a father would make a 7-year-old see that. Or was that just,
And also, it might not be true.
yeah, or was that Durst's weird interpretation? Was that one of his lies? Because, you know, he was said by his family to lie a lot.
Well, so one of the things that came out of John Cannan last week's episode, there's a lot of talk in the book that I read about how narcissists want to blame others for the bad shit and their bad behavior and whatever. And so sadly, that means they can tell lies about horrendous things that you'd feel guilty about questioning.
Yeah.
But
So
they know that.
It could be a lie. It also potentially is believable because something has fucked him up. It could also be that there's a history of mental health issues, you know. We don't know any more details about his mother. So his brother Douglas denied that Durst had witnessed her death. However, he wasn't there at the time. So all of this is alleged. And as children, Durst and Douglas underwent counseling for severe sibling rivalry. And a 1953 psychiatrist report on Durst, who was 10 years old at the time, mentioned personality decomposition and possibly even schizophrenia. Now, they used to call a lot of things schizophrenia back then. They used to even call autism schizophrenia back then. So I wouldn't 100% rely on that diagnosis. There are other, you know, theories. But that's what they said in 1953.
But to have extreme sibling rivalry when one of you is 10, that's...
Yeah. And I wonder whether that could have been, you know, the parents creating that. Often it can be. It was said that his mother really doted on him, on Durst, and it was also said by the family that the father was very loving after the mother's death. So that's what we do know, or what I have come across. So Durst attended Scarsdale High School, where classmates described him as a loner. I don't judge him for that.
No.
Not that bit anyway.
The only thing that's made me like him so far, but go on.
You know, and also at this stage, I feel bad for the kid, you know. He earned a bachelor's.
He's still a victim at this point.
He earned a bachelor's degree in economics in 1965 from Lehigh University. He was a member of the lacrosse team, blah, 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 blah. He enrolled in a doctoral program at the University of California, UCLA, later that year, where he met Susan Berman, who was his second victim. But he eventually withdrew from school and returned to New York in 1969. And it was said that he used to try very hard to please his father, which was also something that we heard from the Menendez brothers, that they, you know, it wasn't, in this case, it wasn't that the father was strict and harsh like the Menendez father, but I guess coming from such a successful family, you want to.
That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. So Durst had no interest in working for his father at the organization, however. He wanted to open up a small health food store in Vermont, which he did in the early 70s.
Weird, random, but okay.
Yeah, I thought so. I want to know more about that.
Vermont is meant to be kind of hippie-ish, like relaxy vibes.
Yeah,
I'm thinking Ben and Jerry's.
You know, the other thing also is I'm guessing it's a nice getaway from New York, Manhattan. You know what I mean? You want like,
And the pressure of this
yeah,
like
yeah. So,
family expectations and whatnot, right?
so Durst
And
closed,
tragedy of his mum killing himself,
yeah.
her killing herself.
Um, so he closed the store in 1973 when his father convinced him to return to New York. And due to his inappropriate conduct, his father broke tradition and appointed Douglas, his rival sibling, to take over the Durst organization in 1992. Now, I'm going to tell you a bit more about that. So I heard this today that wasn't in the documentary, but by inappropriate behavior, apparently Durst was very able to be very professional in professional context, but he was also able to do fucking crazy shit.
Like murder.
He poured a gallon of water over Kathleen's head once. There's more. He poured a gallon of water over her head once at a business meeting. He used to
His first
urinate.
wife.
Yeah, he used to urinate in his brother's bin in the office. Apparently, he kept some sort of sharpened wrench on his desk for no real reason, but his brother was so worried about being harmed by him because he described her as a psychopath that he kept a lead pipe on, under his desk just in case he was attacked by his brother. Also, another interesting fact, and this will come up later. Apparently, he used to burp a lot loudly, and it was never
Oh, you would have
understood.
hated that.
Hated that. So it was not understood whether he did that to be obnoxious and obtuse and just self-entitled, because he is very self-entitled, and that comes through throughout the whole story, or whether that was some sort of tick. Because
Right.
you'll see if you watch a documentary, and I think it's even in the recording I'm going to show you, that he kind of burps involuntarily. And so I find that interesting, whether that is some sort of tick or whether it was something he did to piss people off, because apparently he enjoyed to piss people off.
Do you know what? It could even be a bit of both.
Yeah.
It's a tick he doesn't feel like moderating because he likes
Yeah.
pissing people off.
So he felt that he was entitled to inherit the company despite his disdain for it.
Wait, which brother was older?
Durst is older. He claimed that Douglas had stolen what he believed he was owed, and that caused an even bigger rift between them and the whole family. Eventually, Durst sued for his share of the family fortune and was bought out of the family trust for $65 million in 2006 because they just didn't want anything to do with him.
Yeah.
Okay, so victim number one, Kathleen McCormack. Kathleen, or Kathy as she was known, was Durst's wife. Durst was never charged with his wife's killing, nor was anyone else charged for it, and her body was never recovered.
Oh,
So after
I hate that.
after graduating from high school in New Hyde Park on Long Island, Kathy trained as a dental hygienist and moved to a building owned by the Durst family on the east side of Manhattan. Durst oversaw the building, and when the two met, there was an instant attraction. And Kathy's mother said it was a mutual attraction. He had magnetism, and Kathy had the same thing. So her family, like Durst, a lot when he started dating Kathy, who was only 19 at the time, he was 28. He was 9 years older and from a completely different world to her. And on the second date, Durst asked Kathy to move in with him to Vermont to run his health food store. But after a short time in Vermont, the couple returned to New York, and Durst resumed working for the family real estate business. Remember, I mentioned earlier that he'd sold it.
Love bombing. We've talked about this.
Yeah. So they were married in a private ceremony on his birthday in 1973. And the relationship took a dark turn after 1976 when Durst forced his wife to have an abortion because he didn't want kids, but she did. Now, in the early years of the relationship, it was described as idyllic. That's how it was described. Who knows what happened behind closed doors? But it became very, very sour and dark to the point where he once yanked her out by the hair from a party. He became very controlling, didn't want her to have her own income, just very controlling and abusive. And it was after the abortion that Kathy's mother said that's when it went south. So Kathy then tried to regain her independence, enrolling in nursing school, and the couple bought a cottage nearby on Lake Truesdale in South Salem, New York. So at this point, they had 3 homes: New York, Vermont, and so Manhattan, Vermont, and this South Salem place. After graduating from nursing school, Kathy immediately started medical school at Albert Einstein College of Medicine in the Bronx, and she was hoping to become a pediatrician. And one of her classmates said she was excited to be a medical student. She worked hard. She always took a seat in the front row and took notes. And I remember in the documentary, she was one of the kind of people that no one had a bad word to say. Very loved by everyone in her family. Just a really good person. So by 1980, the couple were arguing a lot, and Kathy contacted a divorce lawyer. And Durst had long acknowledged his marijuana use, and his wife used coke, according to friends and members of her family. Both had affairs, apparently, and his and her friends and relatives have both confirmed that. Apparently, Durst cut off her credit cards to keep her dependent on him. And one of her classmates said that Bob, that's Durst, possessiveness was escalating into physical violence. And she said, I never witnessed it, but Kathy would call me saying, Bobby is really violent. And Durst, impatient to leave one of the McCormick family gatherings, yanked Kathy by the hair, which shocked her family. He was really rude to her family, which she hated, but just deliberately obnoxious and rude, because I guess they just had that sense of entitlement. They didn't give a fuck.
Can I just interject
Mhm.
one moment to say that apparently the Jinx is on Now TV,
Oh,
which means
that's
it's
good.
probably on Sky TV,
Oh,
but
that's
it
good.
looks like you might need a premium subscription.
Ah,
But you can
interesting.
also watch it if you pay Apple TV, Amazon Prime Video, YouTube, and Google Play Movies and TVs. But you have to pay between £1.89 to £1.99. That is from our favorite Sam.
Our
Carry
favorite
on.
Sam, worth watching. On another occasion, he stormed into their apartment where Kathy was talking with friends and kicked an acquaintance in the face, who was a male acquaintance. The man later settled a lawsuit over the issue with Durst. 3 weeks before Kathy disappeared, she was treated at Jacobi Medical Center in the Bronx for bruises she suffered during an argument with Durst, according to several friends and medical records later discovered by investigators. But she never gave up the fact that it was from Durst, that the injuries were sustained from him. And Kathy told her sister, her friends, and virtually anyone who would listen, if anything happens to me, don't let Bob get away with it. And a friend of Kathy said she met Kathy at a couple's East Side apartment on January 29th, 1982, and Kathy wanted someone she knew to sublet the apartments that, quote unquote, if the situation between her and Durst became too threatening, she would have an alternative place to stay, her friend Geraldine said in a 1983 affidavit. And that was the last time Geraldine saw her. A week later, Durst walked into a Manhattan police station to file a missing persons report. It took him 5 days to actually report her missing, even though in that time he was making phone calls, pretending to be worried about her whereabouts, calling friends to find out where she was.
So they were kind of in a turbulent relationship. So I can believe the 5
Yes.
days apart or whatever. But if you're making phone calls saying I'm actively worried about her,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
he
yeah,
carried
yeah.
a copy of New York Magazine with his father's picture and the headline, The Men Who Own New York, when he went to the police station, which I think just says everything you need to know about his arrogance, narcissism, self-entitlement. And Durst told the police that he put his wife on a train to Manhattan from Westchester County on Sunday nights so she could attend school the next day. He said he had later spoken to her on the phone after she arrived at their Riverside drive home. So soon the story was splashed across New York's tabloids, and Durst, who hired detectives and offered a reward, told his family and friends and the police that his wife might have run away with a drug dealer. So that was his story, but the story changed a lot and multiple times, and it was very inconsistent. And her family found that implausible since she was only months away from graduating. And her mother said she'd always wanted to take care of children. And decades later, in an interview with the producers of the HBO documentary The Jinx, Durst acknowledged that much of what he told the police was a lie. Sorry. And apparently, his family said about Durst that he was just a compulsive liar. I don't know whether that's to get out of trouble, to cover up the things he'd done, or whether he just lied as a sport. And in
Well, if he's
2000,
happy to kill people to get out of trouble,
yeah,
then I imagine he's also okay with lying.
A liar, yeah. So in 2000, Kathy's case was reopened, and this was 18 years after she vanished. And the Westchester County District Attorney, Janine Pirro, firmly believed that Kathy had been a victim of homicide. And with Pirro's blessing, the investigators reopened the file. So though Durst was still not charged in connection with Kathy's disappearance, he decided to go into hiding that November. And
18 years after she's disappeared.
yeah, so you know how we've said this before, but a lot of serial killers have aliases, which I'm going to talk a bit more about. There was a crazy one, and multiple addresses, multiple names, you know. So that was the
Move
case
around a
with Robert
lot.
Durst.
Yeah.
Yes. So as a multimillionaire real estate heir, he had plenty of money and resources to disappear without warning. So he fled to Galveston, Texas, of all places. And according to CBS News, he rented an inexpensive apartment and bizarrely disguised himself as a mute woman named Dorothy Signer. And that name he got from one of his old classmates. So he then quietly got remarried to a New York real estate broker called Deborah Sheraton. And in December of the same year, Durst's friend Susan Birdman was found murdered at her home in California.
This is the
So
one he met
she
at
had been
uni.
shot. Yes, his long-term, very loyal friend. So she'd been shot execution style in the back of the head shortly after investigators had reached out to her about Kathy. And it's now believed that Susan was about to cooperate with the police and tell them everything she knew. And she did know everything.
Oh.
And after Susan's body was discovered, the Beverly Hills Police Department received a cryptic note about her death, which included just her address and the word cadaver. And according to Los Angeles Times, suspicion first fell on other people, including her landlord, her business manager, and criminal underworld people, because her dad had been a Vegas mob boss.
Oh.
And although Durst's name came up, he wasn't initially charged with anything. But then another person close to Durst was also found murdered, his elderly neighbor in Texas, Morris Black. And in September 2001, the year after he murdered Susan, the dismembered torso and limbs of Morris were found floating in rubbish bags in Galveston Bay. This time, Durst couldn't escape suspicion. He was arrested for the murder. However, he left jail the same day after posting a $300,000 bond. And you know what? I actually laughed out loud during the scene of the documentary, because this was caught on camera, where he was released on bail. And they said that they would release him. And the reason I laughed is because it was so ridiculous. Because they didn't realize at the time when he was arrested in Texas that he was a wealthy, property heir. They didn't know he was wealthy at all.
This is in the time of Google.
Yeah, but they actually said to him that his bail was going to be $300,000. And they said,
He
have you
probably
got
reached
that?
into a pocket and just pulled it
No,
out.
do you know what he said? Do you know what he said? He said, no, not on me. And it made me laugh because it was like something you say,
Pocket money.
says, if you got a fiver, no, not on me. But
Yeah.
he just so casually said, no, not on me. But yeah, Anyway, he then went on the run for about 7 weeks until he was found in Pennsylvania. And he was actually caught because he was caught shoplifting a chicken sandwich at a grocery store. So had he not decided to shoplift that sandwich, he would have been on the run even longer.
Did he not have access to like his credit cards and stuff? Like, did he need to steal food?
Do you know what? A psychologist said there was a term for this. Oh, I can't remember the term. That he saw that something about the risk outweighing what am I trying to say? Or
the reward
there was a couple of
outweighing
theories why. Yeah, the reward outweighing the risk, or that he did it to see how much he could get away with, because he was also arrested another occasion for he was charged he had a $500 fine because in a CVS he stole a Band-Aid from a Band-Aid box, just one, then he put the box back, and then he urinated on the shelf, exposing people, and he was fined $500. So there is a theory by psychologists, I heard this today, that he was also testing to see how much he could get away with. You know how they do that? The sort of psychopaths kind of almost taunt people with their arrogance, you know? So
I hate
Durst
this.
later admitted, yeah. But what I find interesting is his reasons, you know, the reasons, which I'll go into more. But Durst later admitted to killing and dismembering Morris, but he was found not guilty of murder in November 2003 because he claimed he had killed in self-defense. Apparently they were friends, but they were also often heard arguing. And Morris was known to be a cantankerous person who just didn't get along with anyone, argued with everyone, but they befriended each other, probably because they're both similar.
Dicks.
It was
Similar.
it was believed that Morris discovered that Durst was really wealthy and wanted them to run away together.
Romantically?
And don't know.
Like, what, can't they just stay where they are and be rich?
Well, that bit wasn't explained, but that piqued my interest because that wasn't part of the documentary. That's something that I heard on a podcast today. I'll find out the name. We only have Durst's side of the story concerning the murder, but he says that on September 28th, 2001, he arrived at his own apartment to find Morris sitting inside without an invitation. Morris, who had a key to Durst's flat, was watching TV when Durst arrived, and Morris approached him with a gun. They then tussled, and Durst accidentally shot him in the face. He then panicked and went out and bought a hacksaw and some rubbish bags and dismembered his body on his own kitchen floor. Durst told jurors in detail how he bought tools and dismembered and disposed of Morris's body. He was acquitted of murder. He pleaded guilty to violating his bail and to evidence tampering for the dismemberment, but he served 3 years in prison. Although many of Morris's body parts were found floating later in Galveston Bay, his head was never discovered. So back to second victim, which is Susan Berman. So Susan was Durst's friend, and they allegedly also dated for 10 years, but she's mainly described by different sources as his friend, and a very loyal one.
10 years is a long time.
Durst,
Do you know what? This is giving me first name I can't ever pronounce, Maxwell and Epstein vibes.
Oh yeah.
Ghislaine.
Yeah. Ghislaine.
Yeah. You know how they were like, where they were
yes.
kind of going out, but she was a friend who was helping with things, knew clearly much more than she
kind of
let
more
on.
an accomplice and a business partner.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Durst shot Susan in the back of her head at her LA home in December 2000, fearing that she would cooperate with the newly revived investigation into Kathy's disappearance. And she was found murdered with a 9mm handgun on Christmas Eve at her rented Benedict Canyon home, and was presumed to have been dead at least for a day. And on March 14, 2015, Durst was arrested in New Orleans on a first-degree murder warrant issued out of Los Angeles. And although Durst's presumed victim was not immediately named by authorities, the LA Times first reported that he had been detained in connection to Berman's death, her murder. 3 days after his arrest, the LA District Attorney Jackie Lacey said that if convicted, Durst could face the death penalty in California for special circumstances of murder of a witness and lying in wait. And Durst was transferred and arraigned in California in early November 2016. And Berman became a confidant of Durst at UCLA in the 60s. That's when they first met. And came to know Kathy after later moving to New York. And Berman initially acted as a media spokesperson for Durst and is believed to have facilitated his public alibi. She supplied a deposition in the case in 1982 when Kathy went missing, which Durst faxed to investigators after her murder. Berman had remained Durst's friend and received 2 large cash gifts totaling $50,000 from him in the months before her death. She had last written to Durst on November 5th, 2000, expressing hope that her financial requests would not ruin their friendship. And early in 2000, the New York State Police, at the request of then Westchester County District Attorney Jeanine Pirro, who we mentioned, had reopened the investigation into Kathleen's disappearance and was urged by her friends to contact Susan for an interview.
So it kind of sounds like Susan was blackmailing.
Yes. Well, was he bribing her or was she blackmailing him?
Well, if she's written that she hopes her financial requests don't affect their friendship. It sounds like she's asked him for money. 50,000 doesn't seem like that much for him. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing. I can't quite work out whether it's blackmail from her side or bribery from his silence money. But Susan was killed weeks after the reopening of the investigation was publicized.
It's very coincidental.
Yeah, there was a note that got Durst busted. At the time that his close friend Susan was killed, an anonymous note was sent to Beverly Hills police telling them they would find a cadaver at her house. The note was written all in capital letters and misspelled. The city name was misspelled, so Beverly Hills was misspelled. It was spelled like the name Beverly rather than the correct way, which doesn't have a third E in it. So when authorities went there, the note's assertion was proved true, and they found Susan's body. So for decades, Durst denied writing the so-called cadaver note, but in the finale of The Jinx, Durst is confronted with what has been hailed as the smoking gun. And in 2012, Susan's adopted son found an earlier letter he wrote to Susan with the same misspelling of Beverly Hills and style of lettering. And you'll see in the documentary, the note that he'd written to the police about the cadaver, there's a cadaver in her house, and the letter that he'd sent to her, both with Beverly Hills spelled in the same incorrect way and both in capital letters. So you'll see it side by side, exactly same writing.
Oh my God.
So
what, he felt guilty
son,
or something? He wanted the police to find his friend's
body?
I
don't fucking know whether that was his one little scrap of remorse, not wanting her to just be there unfound. I don't know. But Susan's adopted son provided it to Mark Smerling, who was a cinematographer of the HBO series. And when confronted with the letter, Durst, remember how we said he had an interesting tic?
Yeah, the burping.
Yeah. So when he was confronted with the letter, Durst burped, stumbled over his words, frequently touched his ear, and struggled to account for the coincidence. And I'm gonna show you some of that footage. Should I show you?
Yes, you should show us. Okay, but
okay. Oh,
quote your sources, blah, blah, blah. Is it a video or audio?
YouTube. I feel bad
well,
because it's an audio medium.
So we just want to say thank you to ABC News because you are very kindly letting us watch this. So I'm going to press play, yeah?
Millionaire, caught on camera by HBO producers filming a documentary about his life, The Jinx, the life and deaths of Robert Durst. The filmmakers had just confronted Durst about similarities in his handwriting and that of an anonymous letter that alerted the LAPD that Susan Berman was dead.
And can you tell me which one you didn't write?
No.
Okay.
That's giving me the chills. Ugh.
Yes, it does. The final scene is jaw-dropping, but I'm going to get onto that. Okay, so when the interview was over, Durst went to the bathroom with his microphone still recording and muttered, "I don't know what you expected to get. I don't know what's in the house. Oh, I want this. Kill them all, of course." Because he says that he was on meth the whole time this was being recorded. But go back to that recording. Actually, wait, I've got a different one here.
Durst, still mic'd, alone in the bathroom, muttering to himself.
There it is. You're recording.
The director, Andrew Jarecki, on Good Morning America, saying he turned the tape over to police months ago.
When we finally found that subsequent admission, what happens in the bathroom, we contacted them and we said, we have something more.
Then Saturday night, just a day before that episode was to air, Durst checked into this plush hotel in downtown New Orleans.
He came in here and he checked in under an alias. That name, Ward Everett. Police say they arrived here at about 7 p.m. that night. They arrested him. They said that he was in possession of a weapon, a Smith & Wesson .38.
Durst waiving his right to fight extradition, his attorney dismissing what some are calling that confession.
It's pretty slick. You probably get him an Emmy, but it's very misleading too.
David, sources are telling us that Durst is still here at this complex tonight. Now, we asked the LAPD about the uncanny timing of that arrest. They said that somebody watching the show called in an anonymous tip, and that tip led to Durst.
David.
Matt Gutman, thanks to you. I want to bring in ABC's chief legal analyst, Dan Abrams, with us here tonight. And Dan, a lot of people are going to say, that sounds like a confession, plain and simple. But can it be used against him?
Probably. The defense will likely argue it shouldn't be allowed into evidence. They will say that we can't trust this tape. We don't know where it was. It could have been manipulated. But those are probably losing arguments, and ultimately the jury will probably hear it.
You put that piece of audio aside, and you still have that moment with the letters, too.
I think it's actually more powerful than the audio tape. On the audio tape, I think he's going to own it. I think he's going to say, yes, I said it. But of course I didn't mean it. I knew they were listening. With the letter, boy, you look at those side by side, and it's hard to figure out exactly what he's going to say. Sure, he can call in a handwriting expert to dispute it, but jurors just look at those two items of evidence, and I think that's going to be big trouble.
Yeah, big trouble.
Crazy, right? I mean, the last scene of the documentary when he goes in the toilet and says, I killed them all. Oh my God, because you spend 6 episodes watching it thinking, how the fuck is he getting away with it? And then he fucks himself at the end, you know, just by not realizing his mic is still turned on. So during the trial in which Durst would be convicted of murdering Susan, he admitted to writing the note, but said he found her dead at her home rather than killing her. And he was arrested, as you saw or heard in the clip, by FBI agents on March 14th, 2015 at the Canal Street Marriott in New Orleans, where he had registered under the false name Everett Ward. So
he's saying that he's killed someone in self-defense, his neighbor and friend.
Yes.
And then he's found his other friend dead. Like, these things don't happen to most people. You just constantly finding fucking dead bodies.
Yeah.
Especially when you're living a life of privilege. It's not like he's living in like gang territory where you might expect it a bit more.
I was listening to a psychologist talk about it today, and they were saying that, you know, people who come from insanely wealthy backgrounds can often have like a lack of motivation, obviously, to work, a lack of work ethic, but also all the other problems that people who are insanely wealthy and never hear no, you know, can develop. And that's what I find so interesting, is that, was he born with a mental health condition? It could be, you know, his mother clearly had a mental health condition or a circumstance, potentially a circumstance, you know, that made her want to take her life. Or did that event turn him? Or was it just that he was so spoiled, never heard no, had a lot of money, was used to getting his own way? You know, was it that? Because he said something in the trial to that effect about how he's not really had people question him in his life before. But, you know, his brother, Douglas, the one that he had the rivalry with, said that he was always fearful of his life around Durst. And also another interesting side note, which wasn't...
When did he say that?
During the trial. He was one of the witnesses. So also another interesting story that came out in the trial, which wasn't in the documentary from what I remember, was that Durst, when he was living with Kathy, he had 7 dogs. They were called Malamutes or something. What are they called?
Alaskan Malamutes. Oh, they're gorgeous.
So he loved them. He apparently got really into that breed.
They look like huskies, but a bit bigger, and they're normally black and gray and white.
Okay, so what I want to tell you is going to make you sad. But he had 7 of them. Interestingly, he called them all Igor. Every single one was called Igor.
At the same time?
Yeah.
Okay.
They all mysteriously died.
Don't like that.
Then, interestingly, it came out in court that he had said about his brother that he was going to Igor him. Yeah. So, another weird fact. Okay.
Here,
so,
let me, wait. I need to show you a thing. Okay, just bear with me. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Let's just take a moment to look at the glory.
Oh, yeah.
Look how cute they are, all the little puppies.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So, the long-delayed trial finally began in LA in early 2020, but after the selection of a jury and opening statements, it was postponed again until March because of the pandemic. So the trial resumed in May 2021, and like almost everything else in the Durst saga, it was bizarre, with jurors spread across the courtroom gallery because of social distancing. prosecutors occupying the jury box, and everyone, including the judge, wearing masks as a precaution against COVID. So during the trial, Durst's brother Douglas, who oversaw the family's $8 billion real estate empire, and Nick Chavin, a longtime friend of Durst, were both witnesses for the prosecution. Nick testified that in 2014, he had a conversation in New York with Durst, who admitted that he had killed Susan, saying it was her or me. I had no choice. Basically,
yet again, self-defense.
Yeah, basically saying that he either had to kill her or he was going to jail.
Okay, so not physical self-defense.
Oh yeah, no, it was either her or me, as in,
All right, I thought he was trying to say again that.
No, that it was a fight, yeah. Prosecutors called 80 witnesses and introduced nearly 300 exhibits, but the most damaging evidence came from Durst's own mouth, as the jury heard him make a series of recorded acknowledgements in an interview with John Lewin, a deputy prosecutor, after his arrest in 2015, in hundreds of jailhouse phone calls, and in 20 hours of interviews with Andrew Jarecki, the producer of the documentary. And in his last interview with Andrew Jarecki, Andrew confronted Durst with 2 envelopes, as we saw, each with block letter handwriting, so capital letters. One sent by Durst to Susan in 1999, and the other sent anonymously to the LAPD, telling detectives where to find her body. And a handwriting expert said they were both written by one person, which you can see.
Hell surprise moment
Every
of the
letter,
episode.
Yeah, you know when the letters have all the same sort of quirks? Yeah, so both misspelled, as I said, Beverly Hills.
I mean, even he couldn't say which one he hadn't written.
Yeah. And after the interview, as we saw in the footage, shaken Durst went to the bathroom, unaware that his wireless microphone was still on, and made a rambling off-camera confession, ending with, "What the hell did I do? Killed them all, of course." And after 7.5 hours of deliberations, the jury on September 17th found Durst guilty of first-degree murder. So his victims were Kathy, his first wife, in 1982, Susan Berman in 2000, and Morris Black in 2001. And he was sentenced in October to life in prison with no possibility of parole, and he died of natural causes on 10th of January 2022.
So less than a year.
So considering he had, as far as we're aware, started his murdering spree in 1982, he spent very little time.
So he had the 3 years, if he served the entire 3 years. He had the 3 years for Morris, and then less than a year before he died.
Crazy,
and the rest
right?
of his life, he lived in fucking luxury.
Yeah. And it just, like, there's so many links. Okay, maybe like loose links, but with the Menendez case. Actually, no, not the Menendez case. Because actually scrap that. The Murdochs, yeah. The Murdochs, Dominique Strauss-Kahn, people getting off.
Peter, staircase guy. Peterson, something Peterson. Him as well. Yeah. Rich guy that just managed to fucking manipulate the law.
Insane. So my sources are New York Times, Wikipedia, obviously, allthat'sinteresting.com, ABC News, LA
How the
Times.
fuck are you reading New York Times? Have you got a subscription?
No, but when you Google stuff, when you type in Robert Durst, that's one of the first things that comes up.
No, I know, okay, whatever. We'll talk about this stuff. No, I know, but it asks you for a subscription.
No.
Oh, right. Carry on.
I think I might have it from Memo, actually.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, because I have to sort of link these. And The Guardian. Cool. So those are my sources. But I thought I find it interesting, like I said, because he's not somebody who was murdering for fun, like Levi Bellfield, for example.
Yeah,
it doesn't follow that pattern of stalking and wooing and all of that.
In his mind, it was a logical solution to whatever problem he was having at the time, which is why, I mean, I imagine his wife and Kathy and Susan Berman, I imagine they're quite similar profiles. If he's dated both of them, friends with them, they seem to be similar age. But obviously, Maurice is an entirely different, he's a male, he's... Yeah, it's he doesn't have a type. It's just whoever is a problem for
Do
him
you know
at the
what?
time.
It was when he lost control of the
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
You know, because Kathy was going to leave him. Susan was going to divulge
Potentially
to the
work with the
police.
police. Yeah.
And Morris
Fell
had
in love with
found
him.
out. Well, who knows about that? But that's still a mystery, that one. But he had found
But
out
clearly,
found out who Robert was. And found out that he was wealthy and maybe there was some blackmail involved. But yeah, basically it was Robert Durst's way of regaining control, I guess.
yeah, just eliminating the obstacles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which,
But what I find fascinating is also where, like I said, where did the problem start? Was it from birth? Was he born with some sort of condition? Was it his mother's suicide? Was it just being a fucking spoiled brat? Which was it?
you know what? I think it might have been all of those things to get you to the extreme where you are willing to just murder people willy-nilly just to solve your problems.
Because you hear it all the time that also money makes people bad, Money to that degree can, make people make, unscrupulous choices. But
Well, we've all met people who have never been told no in their life. And it's not fucking pleasant, is it? And then if you add to that a bunch of other complicating and distressing factors, add some childhood trauma into the mix or whatever, I mean, it's not going to be a good fucking cocktail, is it?
Oh, another fact that I should have mentioned. They found all of Susan's belongings in New York dumped in a dumpster with a note written by Durst that said shovel, dig, wrench. It was a list of sort of a potential murder cover-up kit. Yeah.
Yeah, that seems pretty damning. How do you explain that away?
So yeah, I don't know if this guy's just got really good fucking lawyers, but that's the story.
Oh, okay. So when Kathy first went missing, I presume he was a suspect. People would have found out that he was
questioned. He was questioned,
they
but
had a traumatic.
Yeah,
but they just had no evidence.
No evidence because they never found her body.
Yeah. And then Susan Berman's case was he ever a suspect until the recording? When was she killed versus
2000.
2000, and the recording was in 2015 or ish.
Yes,
that's when the film came out.
Yeah.
So still like 14, 15 years. And they just, maybe they questioned him, but in any case, he wasn't detained or whatever.
And I really wonder whether it's good lawyers or just that they don't have that one bit of crucial evidence, Because sometimes they know who it is, but they just don't have quite enough.
Yeah,
put them away.
Because they need to have enough evidence to convict in court, in theory. And like you say, if Susan's body was never found, then that's going to be very difficult.
Kathy's,
yeah. Fucking hell, that is.
Yeah, but don't you find it fascinating compared to a case like Levi Belfield, where he kind of is the
it's entirely different motivation, isn't it?
Yeah, and also Levi Belfield to me is like the textbook serial killer, dysfunctional.
Colin Sutton even said he's so textbook, we struggle to put him into like modeling computer software because he skews the results. He's that fucking predictable.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's got the background, the family background, educational background, all these sort of textbook of what you'd expect of a serial killer, romantic profile, if you can call it that, relationships with women, all the rest,
his type, his motive, his escalation, everything's just so fucking boringly textbook. Whereas, this guy, both clearly psychopaths,
and
obviously, narcissists. But he's just like, I don't know, like we would say, oh, I've got a problem, I've got a speeding ticket. All right, I'll pay the fine. In the same way as he would be like, oh, this woman's caused me a bit of aggro. Never mind, I'll just kill her.
Yeah. It's also interesting because he's so wealthy, he could have got a hitman. And I always wonder that about wealthy people. Why do it yourself? Because
there's problems with hitmen. Remember,
they could bribe you. They could bribe you.
Gucci. Remember?
Vaguely.
Patricia, she hired some, I mean, she hired amateur hitmen. If you're rich and you can hire a hitman, I'm not giving advice on this, but you would think and I also don't know how you would research hitmen.
Mm,
I don't know what I'm saying. But she hired some fucking amateurs who then kept on coming back to her for more money or whatever.
mm.
So
But I did always wonder that. I did always wonder that if you're that wealthy, why would you actually get your hands dirty?
if
Because
he's a psychopath and he's arrogant and he has no problem with the actual act of killing for his own preservation, and he thinks he's smarter than everyone, then why would you hire someone else? Just fucking do it yourself, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I always think, like, for example, when I think about hitmen, I think about people like the Wagner Group and, private military organizations where those people could probably fucking make it invisible. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where they could literally leave no remnant of evidence behind. And that's why I'm surprised people don't just outsource it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Bonkers.
that's the fucking story. But I will say, everyone, please watch the documentary if you can.
I'm gonna. Supposedly on Now TV or Sky TV and also on Amazon Prime, but you have to pay, and I don't know how much.
Thank you, our favorite Sam, for finding that out, because this story is big. It's big, and you can't condense it into one episode. That's why the documentary was 6 episodes. There's so much more to it, but I wanted to give you a snapshot because it's so fucking interesting.
Oh, thank you for that one, because I admit, I think because it's been happening in real time, in that it's been over the last couple of years, I haven't watched the documentary. I followed it a little bit. I don't know. I'm gonna go and watch it because it's fucking.
There's a lot of shock moments, and unfortunately, I already gave the spoilers, but it's a.
Well, we know that if we know anything, we already know that he was in jail and he's dead now. So I mean,
there's so many shock moments. It was honestly one where your jaw is on the floor. It was that while watching, it was like 6 episodes of just what, just more and more that you're like, what the fuck, So if you want that sort of,
I do. I want that in
feeling.
my life.
Yeah, watch it.
Well, on that note, I think we need the People's Pulse.
The People's Pulse.
The People's Pulse. People's Pulse. People's Pulse. What's the question today?
Okay, so the question today was one of yours. And, okay, so our question was, what would your memoirs be called? Now, did you think of yours?
Okay, so I have better than that. I actually have a mock-up.
Oh my God. Show me. Why do you have a mock-up?
No, wait, I'm looking for it now. Okay, because I should say that one of the things I used to do for teasers for We Knew the Moon podcast, which was the sort of first iteration of this podcast, I used to ask my guests a little question. And one of the questions, I think I might have asked you it, right? I'll see if I can dig that out, that clip. But I asked, what would the name of your memoirs be? Do you remember what you even said?
Yeah, at the time I said make mine a double.
Oh, yeah, because it's twinsies.
Yeah, and also because I buy everything in multiples.
Oh, yeah, that was good.
But it's kind of boring. It's kind of boring.
Have you got an update now that things have changed?
Minor update.
Minor update.
Cool. Can't say it's well,
so I'm going to look, while you tell us some of this, I'm going to look, because basically the reason why that question even came out is because I think I was talking on the podcast and I said a phrase and I was like, well, title of my memoir. And then it kind of became like a little bit, I won't say catchphrase because that sounds super cunty, but whenever I say something stupid, I'm like, and that's the title of my memoir. So I'm a douche.
So do you know who I was so happy who responded when I posted the story almost straight away?
Mark.
Yes. Adorable Mark. And I'm so
because I have to say, I don't read the messages or the answers because I like them to be a surprise, but I do get a little notification on my phone when people respond and I'm like, oh, so I sometimes
Mark, when you get excited when
wait, can I just say, Mark, can you let us know if you've got those antibiotics you needed? No, I'll cut that out. That sounds awful, like you have an STD. I just hope you're doing well, Mark, physically and mentally.
But also, when you get a notification from someone and you're like, oh, you get excited because it's that specific person.
Yeah.
That's how we feel about Mark.
That is how we feel about
Mark. A lovely man. And just to give you all a reminder, our dear friend Mark, he was the one who, in the worst jobs, People's Pulse question, had to clean sewage pipes with his bare hands.
He's also the one who's had a double lung
Yes.
transplant. So,
Fucking hero.
yeah.
And I think his title is great. It made me sad when I read it, but he said the perfect title for my memoirs would be A Series of Unfortunate Events. But it does have a laughing emoji afterwards. It made me sad because I want only good things and good events to happen to our dear Mark.
I know. But also, make mine a double would work for him too.
True. True. D, you are a fucking poet. You're so witty. So Mark, we love you. We want only good things to happen to you, and we want your book to be a series of very fucking fortunate events.
Yeah. I would buy that book.
Then we have Susie.
Susie! Do we know what Susie's surname is?
Susie Sue.
I always want to call her Susie Q, but Susie Sue, we like that.
Yeah. So she said mine would be called Are You Kidding Me? What the fuck has she done now? Love you. Then we have Chris, who says memoir title is that he's several options. He gave us several options. Is that it? Or, but are you actually funny? And then he said, maybe just make mine a large one. It's funny, isn't it? Like, is that being a memoir named that? Make mine a double or make mine a large one? Because it sounds like huh?
I don't know. I don't know.
And then, oh, Karen.
Which one?
Coventry Karen. Oh,
Coventry
message,
Karen.
but it's not the memoirs. Anyway, so Karen, I thought you were going to tell me a memoir, but I look forward to listening to that voice note. That's not. Maybe it is. Let's see.
Karen, that was the loveliest message
Oh no, that's
ever.
me talking. Oh, but Karen sent us a lovely message. Don't know if we can
Love
play it.
Karen.
I don't
All
know.
right.
Okay, so what would yours be called?
All right, so I'm going to share my screen.
Okay.
Outer Turmoil and Inner Purging. An autobiography by Deanna Safieh. And
I
here
love the reviews by The Guardian.
I even put reviews. Don't Waste Your Time by The Guardian. And What? Utter Bollocks by The Independent.
I love that. That's the best bit.
I'll send that to you for the socials.
Yeah, I love it.
So what's your tweaking, your correction?
Yeah, so mine would now be called Nicotine and Sertraline. Self-explanatory.
Yeah. Oh, well, do you know what then? Mine could be what rhymes with citalopram.
Citalopram, green eggs and ham.
Yeah, I'm vegetarian in it. I'll stick with whatever I said it was.
So, I tell you what, the second People's Pulse in a row, not about puke and shit. Guess what? Less participants, less participants.
All right. Well, what should the next one be? Something about poop.
I'm gonna ask Susie.
Yeah. And suggest us questions, guys. Suggest us and then answer them. Then fucking answer them. Our favorite Sam, where are you?
Yes. Do you know what I normally do? When we have, and I can tell it's not been a popular People's Pulse question, but we're heading towards recording time, I fucking send out a mail shot. Like, give me your fucking answer. Didn't do that today. I didn't do that today.
Well, maybe I need to put them in the email. Hey, do you guys know that we send out a weekly email announcing our fucking episode? Do you know that I even fucking make reels and teasers for you guys? Do you guys know any of this shit? What have you done for me lately?
Did you know that our MailChimp costs more than what we earn from this podcast?
Do you know that we are not financially remunerated directly by this podcast, as our father keeps on reminding us? Buy our merch, please. Mortgage rates have gone up. Can't come. All right. Buy our book. Do you want to see our book?
Exterminate cheap. What book?
Well, the ones, our memoirs that we're going to
Oh,
publish.
memoirs. Yeah.
Yes, we're fucking
Pre-order.
self-publish, aren't we?
Pre-order.
Pre-order our self-published memoirs that no one wants to fucking read. Not even our parents, because are they listening? No, they're not. All right. I am very drunk. Look,
Oh my God. Okay.
it's
you
a
text
little
me.
bottle. I've
You
held it
text
really
me.
close, but it's very little. Look.
Text me when you get back inside.
You know, can I just say, listeners, my sister, when we
Mhm.
finish recording, I have to wait for the video to download, convert, whatever the fuck videos do. And she always makes me text her when I get home. My office studio is at the bottom of my garden. So she's asking me to text when I cross my garden.
Rough area, D.
Rough area, Royal Borough of Richmond. All right, let's go, because we're on a high.
Okay,
Love
love you.
you, Randa. You're the best
Love
sister in the
you.
whole world.
You.
Listeners,
Fucking love you.
love you.
Each and every one of you is sexy.
Can we just say how sexy our listeners are?
Everyone.
You and you and you and you. All right.
But
night.
especially you. Love you.
Oh my God, you are our favorite. Bye.
Hey there, thanks for being a loyal listener.
Do you need a new website or want to boost your social media performance? Or do you hate podcast editing? You've tried optimizing your website and social media channels, but you're still not getting the listeners, downloads, and engagement you want?
We, the Safieh sisters, love helping people with tasks that they hate. We know a thing or two about podcasts, websites, and social media, and we love working with other podcasters and business owners.
So why not head over to switchbladesisterssocialclub.com and go to our Work With Us section. We believe in collaboration over competition. A rising tide raises all ships.
Bye!